If we're going to be devoted to transparency, I should say that we had a little bit of a blow up during our previous recording. And Drew, he's just a little tired. We'll try to include some audio from Drew on this episode, but he's just a little bit tired right now, so he's going to go to bed. But Joe, as succinctly as you can...
Hold on 1 second.
Oh boy, we're doing it again. What's up?
I am sick.
We're having a rough week. Like, genuinely.
We're all falling apart.
It's not a good time right now.
Yeah.
But
so
I'm getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep at a time, and then feeling like I'm like half awake all day. So.
Oh God, go to what? I did.
Fibromyalgia sucks.
Like, does it prevent you from? How does it? What is that? Really, it prevents you from sleeping?
No, that's insomnia. Okay. Fibromyalgia is
Okay, like, now it makes sense.
The fibromyalgia itself is like chronic, widespread body pain, like everywhere, and fatigue, muscle pain, muscle weakness. Any kind of exertion just makes it worse.
That sounds awful, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Comrade Joe.
Like when we did Chill with Comrades, the exertion of physically getting myself to there and then from there, I literally wasn't able to get out of bed the day after. I woke up at like 11:30 and I couldn't get myself out of bed until like 12:15 in the morning the next day.
Honestly, I feel like that is more podcast worthy than what I was gonna fucking say. But like legit, that was an awesome experience. It was another.
So you listened and you went. Hey, cool.
That was like another example of success being like overwhelming.
I get that.
We did not plan on there being a good turnout, and I kind of felt bad for the wait staff at the place because there was like a whole other bourgeois event happening with like vests and alcoholic beverages, and they like rented out the whole floor and we didn't know.
Holy shit. Wow. On a Tuesday?
Yeah.
That's weird.
It was fucking weird, dude. And but so like people were coming in and they didn't know which party was like the DSA, but I didn't even know there was gonna be like a DSA quote unquote party, like enough people to constitute an actual
party. Yeah, because like the last time it was like 5 people, and this time it was like 15.
We ended up needing to split the event in 2, and so there was like we started out at one little round table, and we ended up needing to get like one of the big long double tables.
And then I was like a half hour late too.
And we bowled, and it was fucking fun, and we got food. We decided beforehand it was going to be an exercise in mutual aid. Anybody who can't afford food, that's okay. We'll get your tab. People basically threw money into a hat. We paid with that. And then me and a guy that I've never even met before just split the rest in half, and we paid for everybody's food and drinks. And then
this guy was a DSA guy, right?
He was like it was like the first thing he went to. No, it's just a random guy.
I was like, where some random dude. It's like, yeah, I'll pay for half your pizzas.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, because like I didn't even talk to him. We paid together, and then he was like, hey, I didn't get your name, man. So I mean, that's basically
guy.
Yeah, that was tight. But that was for real, like an exercise in mutual aid, and Drew paid for one of the lanes, and then when Carlene went to pay for another one, they were like, "Nah, you're good."
Hell yeah, Somerville, right? The place is in Somerville.
Yeah,
Somerville, Massachusetts.
That was a blast, man. My fucking groin was not happy for the 2 days after, but used muscles I haven't used in a long time, and that was a blast. I
haven't used your groin muscle in a long time.
It's true. It's an underutilized musculature.
I don't know what that says about your lifestyle, to be totally honest with you. No, really. Like,
no,
there's a lot of practical purposes for the groin muscle. Okay.
Hello. This week's Incredulous installment will feature commentary from Comrades Scott, Joe, Drew, very briefly, and myself. After we recorded this episode, I tested positive for COVID, which may very well explain the executive dysfunction I've been experiencing. For news, we discuss federal government's atrocious strike-breaking legislation, the possibility of a ZeniMax union, the absolute fucking mess in the Pentagon, Elon Musk literally torturing animals to death with his cruel and unusual technology, that other guy, you know the one, and the Bay State's failure to address a care worker crisis, and the slams partially responsible for a blanket content warning this week. Please do us a favor and share this content. Do us a favor and join our pack.
So the new white supremacy is not we are better than you, we are innately superior to you, and you can never become like us. It's we are superior to you, but it's not innate, and you can become like us. You know, take our hand, and us white people will show you the way. That's the new white supremacy.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to give you 10. I want you to explain, as you did before, the history of the rail, how we came to this, where like Congress can actually stop them from going on strike, because that is interesting and insane.
In the 1890s, there were a bunch of rail strikes because rail workers occupy a very powerful choke point within the economy. And when I say a choke point, that means like if the workers decide to withhold their labor as leverage to get material gains, they can basically bring most of the economy to a screeching halt very, very quickly. And so most of the biggest labor actions in American history have been rail strikes. And as such, capitalists are terrified of workers actually being able to exert that much force. So in 1926, the Railway Labor Act was passed to basically allow Congress to intervene and basically impose the will of the capitalist class upon railway workers so they can't exercise their power. And this process began like 2 weeks ago. 4 of the 12 rail unions, the 4 unions happening to be some of the largest ones, the largest union and 3 others, comprised of about 100,000 workers, voted down the rail contract presented to them because it offered no paid sick days, 0, and they wanted 15. That's not even a lot because in Europe, for example, most rail workers get about 60. So they asked for like 15 days off.
That really is that seems like an unfathomable number in this country.
It's 2 solid months.
They got 0 days in this contract that the Biden administration actively pushed on them.
Jesus Christ.
American first.
It's not like the Biden administration was kind of a passive. They were actively lobbying against the sick time, which is truly wild because they keep on going on about how such a great contract it is, even though the ones that literally negotiated this deal and then shoved it down their throats. And they're like, this is such a great deal. Why did 100,000 workers vote it down and are prepared to go on strike over it? And so Biden, as a result of this, because the union set the deadline for when they plan to go on strike, December 9th. And so 2 weeks before that date, he calls on Congress to intervene to prevent a shutdown right before Christmas. Because, God forbid, the children don't get their Christmas presents on time. Or whatever the fuck. So both Schumer and Pelosi quickly obliged and all right, we gotta
do the thing.
And Pelosi, even while she's explaining her reasoning for it, she literally explicitly acknowledges that this is the result of Wall Street, corporate profiteering. And in the same breath, also says that it's highly necessary.
It's highly necessary, Wall Street, corporate profiteering.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. It's yes, we are cucks, but we have our corporate masters to serve, so fuck all of you.
She's basically saying, we are cucks, and that's on brand for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
it's the backbone
usually
of our party.
They don't do that while the entire country is paying attention to what they're doing.
Well, there was Kanye to distract, to distract from the disastrous fucking the worst negotiate. It's just the worst negotiating process I've ever seen. If the Democratic Party had a single molecule of love for the working class of this country, they wouldn't have split the week of paid leave into a separate bill. End of story. They would have passed it together.
Well, that's because they wanted it to fail.
Yes, they did.
This is literally the same shit they did with Build Back Better.
Sunday morning.
And
There it is.
Literally, the Progressive Caucus's argument for why they shouldn't have been like done separately is that, like, oh well, if we let this corporate, giveaway pass through and then do the Build Back Better separately, it's just gonna wither on the vine and die in the Senate. They had this thought a year ago, and then we're dumb enough to be like, yeah, okay, let's do this thing where we put the good thing in a separate bill.
Joe's passion never dissipates. I love it. It's great. It's really great. It is. I genuinely, it's a thing
He's either on or he's off. Like, he's either on the podcast participating 110%, or he's just like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Or you're like making food. Yeah. It's awesome. God, you're such a frustrating human being, Joe, and that's what makes you great.
I'm always somewhere in between. Fucking, I'm just barely showing up, when I eventually get here.
I am the 3 true outcomes kind of podcaster, it would seem.
Yeah. And you're right to call them scabs and rats and pieces of shit, but you may name them the squad members who
yeah, like
who. Oh God, I just hit my mic. It didn't disconnect. That's good.
That's
okay, sorry.
So Cory Bush, Jamal Bowman, AOC, pretty much everybody. The only 2 members of the House who are can be considered on the left-leaning, quote-unquote, progressive caucus, like Mark Pocan and Rashida Tlaib were the only 2 that didn't capitulate.
Who the fuck is Mark Pocan? I don't know who that is. He's
the other co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. He comes from a union organizer, wing of the Democratic Party. I mean, he's okay.
So wait, even Cory Bush?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow, that's embarrassing.
Because they were all promised this if you vote for the tentative agreement that has no sick days, we'll give you a vote on a separate bill with sick days, even though that one's pretty much guaranteed to die in the Senate. How stupid are these people? It takes all of 10 seconds to figure out, yes, this bill is dead on arrival if it goes separately. AOC voted to push this contract through.
Yeah, which, of course, has caused some consternation and controversy within DSA. And yes.
Running DSA members in the Democratic Party is just bad press for the DSA.
In the long run, yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing about people trying to go into somewhere, trying to change the institution. The institution is going to change you, not the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's fucked, man.
Yeah.
I don't want, I'm not gonna read what Peter said, but Peter's post where he said we need outside, it's not gonna happen from it within. And Jesse, what the fuck was that noise? And Jesse, you're right. It sounded like a fart. I'm just saying. And Jesse, you're right.
I heard it too. What the fuck was
about that? The system changes you from within, and it farts apparently. Jesus Christ! What the fuck?
Yeah.
Just getting my laptop charger.
You also ripping ass?
What
do you?
No.
Fuck, Joe. Oh my God. Okay. I will pretend. Okay. But yeah, I got for transparency's sake, I zoned out for the first 27 minutes of when we were recording before, and then realized we were recording and fucking panicked.
Yeah, it was a fucking mess.
I was petting Bindi.
I was, dude. I don't know. I think there's got to be some combination of the fact that I fucking I thought a little bit of generic NyQuil wouldn't. I don't know. She's soft. It was comforting. I kind of forgot where I was. Anyway, I launched into a tirade upon realizing that this was happening. I launched into a tirade about how there's always a whole lot of talk about dicking around at the edges of the Democratic Party in order to enact progressive policy. But there really is a pretty hard limit. It is a capitalist party, explicitly, from the mouths of multiple Democratic senators. They outwardly oppose socialism, socialistic ideals.
I mean, the newly anointed heir apparent to Nancy Pelosi has gone on record several times to say that, quote, I will never bend the knee to radical left democratic socialism.
And they don't talk about the working class. The farthest they'll go is the middle class. which if you use like a Marxist analysis of class struggle, like that's not a real thing. That's just kind of like an ideal that is comfortable.
The middle class is not a real thing? I'm not disagreeing. I want you to clarify.
Well, you have the people who own things, that's the capitalist class, and the people who need to sell their labor, and that's the working class, the proletariat. I mean, you can say like there's also the lumpen proletariat, there's like
I get it, yeah.
people who feel like they have the false consciousness. It's like a weird hybrid term, like the bourgeois proletariat or whatever. But when it comes down to it, there are people that need to sell their labor to survive and people that can survive off of the labor of others. And using the term middle class is just a catch-all to speak to everybody that wants to feel like they're in the audience. And so
yes,
this lying, this rhetoric about, our families are going to miss out on Christmas this year.
Timmy ain't getting his sled. Fuck you.
Most people whose families are celebrating Christmas this year are fucking working class families. But for some reason, they put themselves in the shoes of the bourgeoisie and have the idea that somebody else, some outside force, in this case, the rail workers, are preventing them from having the holiday that they deserve. But it's not a they, it's an us. We are working class people. We deserve labor rights. We deserve time off. We deserve holidays.
So naturally, these people feel the need to go shoot themselves in the foot without even realizing it.
Wait, the squat? Who's shooting themselves in the foot?
In the quote-unquote middle class who think of themselves not as the working class, naturally buy into the capitalist propaganda about the supposed other taking what is theirs without realizing it's actually theirs.
Important point of clarification here that I have to squeeze in. The headlines, opinion pieces, and TV segments that together form, quote, the news, unquote, are less a reflection of what we think and feel than they are a suggestion about what to think and feel. What we end up seeing, hearing, and reading from press outlets is not raw information, but a presentation that coheres with the rationale and material interests of the publisher, whether implicitly, explicitly, intentionally, or inadvertently. Unless we interrogate the assumptions that underlie any headlines purporting to convey the sentiments of the populace, if we uncritically consume information because its source has been deemed trustworthy by other sources like it, then we are apt to create the story that is being told to us. In this case, the story is that the so-called middle class has been fractured, with rail workers pitted against innocent families. In truth, I have no idea how the average American would have felt about the prospect of a rail strike had they not been told from the beginning that their countrymen were feeling anxious and slighted. I likewise don't know how the majority of the country feels about it now that the narrative is out there. What I do know is that the issue has been framed in a way that minimizes support for and power of the rail workers, and at the expense of the working class in general. So hopefully this segment gives someone out there permission to feel like labor rights are in fact more important than getting all their Christmas presents on time.
It's kind of like when Jose Canseco accidentally shot his middle finger off during a poker game.
Oh, dude,
Didn't
I have
mean
to say,
but it hurt himself anyways.
I feel so bad about confusing Lula and Bolsonaro because it was Lula who lost his finger, and he lost his finger in the most proletarian way imaginable, in a piece of heavy machinery.
Oh. Well, yeah, hell yeah. Have you seen The Machinist?
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about.
Yeah, the Michael Ironside gets his arm ripped off. Yeah, that movie. It's fucking brutal.
Meanwhile, Bolsonaro just gets hospitalized because he can't poop.
He's dying.
Oh, well, that's the other thing. That was the other...
Why am I laughing?
That's another mistake that I need to rectify, if you'll excuse the pun. The reason he couldn't shit was because he got stabbed in the intestine.
Damn near killed him.
So there was a direct correlation between getting injured on the campaign trail and being unable to shit. So that really ties up all of the loose ends right there.
Ties up all of his
loose intestines. Loose bowels right there.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Taiwan or the Pentagon? What happened? Like, I'm genuinely curious about this story, which was what was frustrating earlier because like Drew kept being like, "I want to talk about this." It's like, okay, but what did the Pentagon do?
Well, he got to talk about. We'll put it in.
ZeniMax, baby. The, what was it, 200, 300? I think they represent like 300 employees at ZeniMax that are voting on unionizing. It's very sorely needed, not just for QA, mostly for QA. QA being quality assurance, like the people who test the games while they're in the development and being like, oh, that shit broke, we gotta fix that. They log the bugs for all the engineers to fix and stuff. They're generally the most underpaid, most exploited, most overworked of the bunch, but everyone needs representation, especially when you're working for these companies that generate like the billions of dollars more than like the movie and porn industries combined times 2 or whatever. And it's very frustrating for me to like read about this stuff in the CNN or whatever, because every fucking article about anything that happens with video games is just like, yup, we've come a long way since Pac-Man, and now we got Fortnite, and Goku can dance in the screen, and kids do a TikTok dance and pay $12 billion in microtransactions, and just everyone that reports in this shit is just so fucking brain dead stupid and just talk down to you like like you've never seen a video game since fucking Pac-Man. Oh my god, that shit gets me boiling. But hopefully they'll win just as hard as everyone under Activision has been with unionizing. That's today's video games with Drew Graham. That's back to you, Jim.
So the Pentagon has failed its 5th straight audit. In fact, they have yet to successfully pass an audit, even though every department. Yes, even though every department.
No, I mean, like in history, have they never passed an audit? They've never passed an audit in history. Are you serious?
I am.
How did they get away with that?
Serious. So,
like, don't you go to jail if you don't? Like, what?
They're part of the executive branch, so they're basically auditing themselves.
Well, no, actually, every department in the federal government, as of 1992, there's a federal law requiring every government department to go through an audit every year. And for a long time, up until like the Obama administration, nobody really bothered to try to get the Pentagon to do it. And there's also the added context of...
Hold on a second. Hold on. So you're saying Bill Clinton codified the audit of the Pentagon and then didn't enforce it?
No, George H.W. Bush codified it.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
That sounds like something he would do.
So neither George H.W. Bush nor Bill Clinton bothered to enforce it.
That sounds right, though.
Okay.
His son didn't bother to enforce it either.
Have this law in the books that says you're doing everything, keeps it above board. It's like in casino, when you're like applying for your casino license.
A lot of times the Pentagon would just outright fail.
How? What are you talking about?
They did a really bad... Most of the time they would try to like outsource it. Also because the Pentagon is really bad with being able to keep track of where shit is. It's also been documented that the Pentagon has been committing accounting fraud since like the early 80s. Like, it's documented that they've been like cooking the books to try to get more money from Congress.
Whenever someone says cooking the books, I can't imagine anything other than somebody like standing at their stove with like a frying pan in there, just like casually flipping a paperback over to make sure it's done. Anyway,
how do you audit the Pentagon and how do they fail it? Like, I'm so like, what?
Because they're really bad at record keeping, among other things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Several times they tried outsourcing it, and then the people that outsourced it to did an even worse job. So the first time any branch within the military successfully, like actually completed an audit was in 2013, and the Pentagon made a big deal about like the Marine Corps completed an audit. They're the first one to ever do it, and then it came back that the Marine Corps did finish one, but they failed because A, they did a bad job, and B, they outsourced it to someone who also did an even worse job. And the funny thing is, the way that it was spun, I read like at least 8 different articles about this audit. It's the 5th time they failed. The Pentagon says that it is a teachable moment. Even though it's disappointing that we failed, it's progress. Progress being that the Pentagon holds $3.2 trillion in assets, and they can only account for about 39% of it. And by their best case scenario, the Pentagon does not expect to be able to successfully pass an audit before 2027. Oh,
That's,
and
5
and
years.
the audit
that's
cost
pretty good.
$218 million of taxpayer money.
Just
And-
okay.
And they're running $250 billion in deficits because the Pentagon holds $3.5 trillion in assets and they have $3.7 trillion in liabilities. So it's a mess. And the funniest thing is about all of this is that their inability to keep track of where shit is making it harder for them to give weapons to Ukraine.
Well, there you go.
And
So
There's more. There's more.
There's always more.
We're arming Ukraine so much, and like our supply chains are apparently shit because there was a bunch of outsourcing done that they're like, well, this is no longer sustainable, but like we're trying.
All right, so they failed the audit. Is there like any indication that they know exactly the state of their supply lines? Like, for instance, do they know like how many M16s they manufactured and sent, or are they just kind of willy-nilly just tossing guns all over the place and hoping they don't run out before they have to arm the next international conflict?
Well, actually, it's a little bit of both.
Ooh.
This ties in perfectly into the Taiwan situation, where this time last year, our weapons backlog to Taiwan was at about $14 billion, meaning we've sold them like $14 billion worth of weapons that we haven't sent them yet, because our weapons manufacturers are behind on production, and like the supply chains have been allowed to wither so much because the desire for profit has caused the all of the defense contractors to like consolidate and outsource their supply lines.
Now I'm just imagining them like running around with 3D printed guns.
Whoa.
Pretending like when we get the real ones, this is gonna be fucking cool.
And so now like the defense contractors' desire to like dumping more shit into Ukraine has led to an increased backlog of weapons to Taiwan, where we want to try to arm the Taiwanese against China. So
Damn, how many proxy wars are we fighting? Fuck.
when you think about it, it's kind of like a giant Ponzi scheme where
What?
we're diverting weapons away from one country where we're trying to arm against a global superpower to funnel weapons into a different country to take on a separate global power.
Some people would call that robbing Peter to feed Paul.
Indeed.
Yes.
Who's
Biblical reference. It's a reference. Okay. It's a biblical reference.
Me and my dumb Jew
I should
questions.
look into it, actually. I mean...
So the Pentagon keeps track of like 60% of its assets, but we're going to give them $847 billion this year.
60% is not good enough with the level.
No, they can't keep track of 60%.
Oh, 40%. Excuse me. 40% is not good enough.
They call that progress, though.
So they only know where 40% of their weapons are?
40%. Yeah.
It's so bad.
That is really funny. Like, no, fucking, it's like bumbling government agency just losing weapons everywhere.
The Pentagon tried doing an internal audit a couple years ago, and they had to kill it off because the conclusion that came back was that they somehow managed to lose track of like $250 billion due to like bureaucratic waste. And so they had to kill that report before it got finished because it was like, this is not the answer we were looking for.
Yeah, of course, after you listen to this podcast, where you can get
after you jerk off
A tier information.
Excuse you, S tier
information.
I'm sorry. Yes, this is the S tier podcast. But if you're looking for like maybe B tier information, all right, listen to What a Hell of a Way to Die to learn about some of the these severe excesses in spending and how that comes about.
Joe, I have to say that if you go to the Wikipedia page of to rob Peter to pay Paul, one of the see alsos is Ponzi scheme. So hey, look at that. I think we were going to talk about Elon Musk next.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. okay, so like the show started like this is a thing. Another weird thing that's going on in my life right now is that like, dude, we've talked about Elon Musk the entire run of this show, like almost every episode, and that's like we can't get this motherfucker out of our lives, man. Like it's crazy. Like I don't know what to say, but at the same time, I like this is like the figure in our culture that he's trying to become. He's essentially at this point, yeah.
He does create quite a bunch of content for us.
He does, yeah, for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Sachs said that he's like the rich dick every week.
He is, yeah.
But what did he do besides ruin everything? What?
The agriculture department is taking the rare step of investigating him for violating the Animal Welfare Act because of Neuralink testing.
He's just throwing hardware into animals' brains and
killing them
hoping that works out.
Yes. No,
Neuralink has killed like 1,500 animals, and that's a conservative estimate.
That's the question that I was about to ask, because I have heard, and I'm not saying, because there's this new ridiculous goddamn feature on Twitter that like fact checks the tweet that you're making. You make the tweet, and then like people can like have like this subtweet under it that like fact checks your tweet and says like, oh, this is wrong, blah blah blah, and like I've seen that headline before that says that the Neuralink has killed like 3,000, excuse me, fucking monkeys, 300, I would believe that in a second, but like 3,000 monkeys. And I've heard that this is a made up figure, or that like the one of those boxes came up and said like, this is fake.
Interesting.
And like, is that just?
I wonder who's fact checking that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like, is that just Elon Stan's like going to work for him, like jerking off?
It's entirely possible.
Like, oh, I gotta save him, or is that?
The fact check box has actually fact checked him when he's trying to argue a different position.
No, that's the thing, is that sometimes it actually is factually correct. It actually like checks like conservative idiots from time to time, but like, and Elon himself, funnily enough, but like, I was just wondering, like, because like anybody can do that, so like I should just start doing that under like random tweets. It's like, actually, their opinion is wrong about this movie. Fucking piss everyone off.
But yeah, like Reuters reported an exclusive report that 1,500 is what they've been able to gather from like documents and interviews, but like
Jesus,
20 employees that they've talked to said that it's probably a lot more than 1,500 animals that they've killed.
Yeah, and these are pigs too, like not
pigs,
cops.
Rabbits, birds.
I thought they were monkeys.
Monkeys.
So this is just animals in general.
Yes.
When I say
horrifying.
Pigs, I say that intentionally because pigs are basically people.
Yeah,
when it comes to
similar.
the structure of their brains and the like, they've been domesticated from boars or whatever, whatever.
Hogs. Wow.
I
got 50 to 60 feral hogs. Remember that day on Twitter, guys? Yeah.
But I would wager, having done absolutely no research on this at all, I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to say. But anyway, pigs, they have feelings, and they are social creatures. They just want to be
spiders.
I guess they just want to be friends.
That's a Charlotte's Web reference.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that one. I need to brush up on my lore.
It's just,
I guess.
It's just a book intended for children. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Should have done my homework for this segment. Goddamn. Okay.
But also, like the working conditions, apparently in Neuralink are wild because this is a quote from the article. On several occasions over the years, Musk has told employees to imagine they had a bomb strapped to their heads in an effort to get them to move faster, according to 3 sources who reportedly heard the comments. On one occasion a few years ago, Musk told employees he would trigger a market failure at Neuralink unless they made progress.
What did you say?
A comment perceived by some as a threat to shut down operations if they weren't moving fast enough.
It's not.
That's
absolutely deranged.
That's fucked, dude. And didn't he say that he was like going to try to put one of these fucking things in his own head in a couple months, which I hope.
He says he wants to put one in his own head.
Yeah, but he wanted to do it like soon.
Yeah, like 6 months from now.
I thought it was like 3 months. Anyways, like either way, like I want to see him put it in, and then like his head just gets like infected, and
all
just,
the
like,
shit he's gonna
starts
do
to get bigger and bigger, and he becomes
the
like
next few months for humanity. I'm so stoked about all of it, dude. We're gonna be
that?
on the moon. Oh no.
No, at Mars.
We'll be on Mars. We'll be doing robot shit in our brains. This is gonna be a wild, especially because he just decided to, without any external pressure,
Hammond-ass motherfucker,
impose deadlines upon himself that are absolutely impossible to meet. I'm so stoked about all that.
Yeah, how he said he would have people on Mars in 10 years, 11 years ago. Or how he keeps saying he wants to put a chip in his brain 6 months from now. What was that?
That was, I dropped a thing.
Honestly, I would love to see if regulators just let him be the only person that put that in his brain, and then it just short circuits everything.
No, yeah, his head it keeps growing and growing. It just gets
I was thinking about this today, and I can very well imagine him not actually doing it and then just walking around I can feel it controlling my...
He originally wasn't going to buy Twitter, and then the courts forced him to. I mean, he has a history of, saying he's going to do this, ridiculous fucking thing, and then immediately talking it back or, not doing it or whatever.
Or, he wanted to do the Hyperloop shit just to get, people to stop trying to invest in public transit.
Well, Hyperloop, yeah. Wait, what did you say, Jesse?
I said he can be the guy in the robot suit this time.
I gotta watch that video. I'm surprised I've never seen that video.
Controlling my brain.
Yeah. What the fuck was after that? Yeah, Elon's a crazy person. He's running Twitter into the ground. It's gonna go the way of Tumblr. Not gonna see any porn ever. No. There's actually a lot more porn on Twitter, suddenly. I wonder why. Dude, I've actually seen, who, I don't remember what establishment it was, but they did a report that said that, the hate speech on the site is, skyrocketed, basically, since Elon took over. And, I saw an instance of, some really, really questionable tweets that would be banned, almost, pure racism and shit like that. It's just, it's ooh.
Fuck Elon Musk.
I don't know. And fuck Kanye West as well, or yay, as Jesse insisted we refer to him as.
Yes. Here's
the thing. Every goddamn clip from his appearance on the Alex Jones show is so funny, though. It's awful. It's awful what he's saying, but, the clip
he's where wearing, a balaclava with no, cutouts.
I like that. I liked his whole getup. No, but, the thing is, the clip where it's, basically he's, rushing into, a commercial break or whatever, a station ID or whatever, and, the camera is, floating by, and, all of a sudden, Kanye, he just, puts his finger up and he's like, I like Hitler. And then it just, cuts to, the break. And it's oh my, it's, perfect timing with everything.
You're an idiot when, you make Alex Jones uncomfortable, not because you're, clearly unwell mentally, but because of the fact that you're being too explicitly racist.
Yeah. And that was the thing is Alex Jones was okay, he was trying to talk it down. And every time Alex Jones would be okay, let's calm down here. Kanye would be no, but the Nazis, we got to stop talking negatively about the Nazis. We got to start talking positively about what they did. And it's dude, what the fuck? And the whole thing felt goddamn fake because everything feels fake now. But it was when they're talking about Stanley Kubrick, Kanye's insisting Clockwork Orange is about Jewish brainwashing, and then Alex Jones is that Kubrick was Jewish, and Kanye just pauses. He's just oh, it's just everything about it was just perfect. He's a dumbass, yes. Beyond the time Obama called Kanye a jackass and all that shit, he has self-proclaimed that he doesn't read and he doesn't have any broader intellectual interests in stuff. He said that recently, and it's
so basically he's valorizing being a moron.
Yeah, but dude, that's classic fascist shit.
Yeah.
Me big brain, I no read it.
I remember seeing this post from it was this bourgeois Cuban guy who was yeah, my grandpa taught us never to learn how to read because we'd become communists. It's all right.
That's how it works.
All right, bro. Fucking just dropping your huge cock on the table.
You learn the alphabet, and then you learn how to read Cat in the Hat, and then immediately you're oh, I must crush the capitalist
overthrow the ruling class.
Yeah.
I speak for the trees. I am the Lorax, and I want you to read Mao.
Yeah,
I mean, that is kind of like
unironically, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is kind of like that. It is. I'm not kidding. Like the Lorax kind of has like a bit of a radical environmentalist message. Like I'm not kidding, Joe. You picked the right one. Like, very impressive,
right there.
Yeah. No, but excuse me. Give me a second.
Jesus Christ.
Bested by my own aged and weary throat.
Too excited.
Mm-hmm. No, but like here's the thing: is like I was recently reading the Don DeLillo novel White Noise, and I swear to God, this is going somewhere, and this will connect to Kanye West. And in it, the main character he's a professor in Hitler studies. Like his entire thing is just like teaching the life, the ideology, philosophy, and everything, like in an academic sense, not like celebratory, but just like teaching Hitler and like studying Hitler and getting to know as much about Hitler as he can. And like in the novel, like there's all like basically there's like a chemical spill and like all this fucked up shit happens, and like his wife is like cheating on him and all this stuff. And so his life is like totally in shambles and stuff. And with Kanye West, like his life is kind of totally in shambles with like his divorce and everything. And to the main character in White Noise, like Hitler represents like this constant, this thing that is always going to be there, this thing that he can depend on, this thing that like it's like the thing that he can hold on to in the storm to keep him like grounded, to keep him feeling that the world, like everything will be okay regardless of how fucking crazy his life gets. I could get into spoilers, but you know,
tell us how it ends, Scott.
Well, he shoots a guy, basically.
All right.
But anyways,
I'll bleep that out for all the listeners.
Well, the movie is coming out in a couple weeks, so you know. And if you want to read the novel, you got to get on the ground for it now because it'll be out, and then all your jerk off friends are gonna be like, "Oh, you're watching White Noise on Netflix?" You're gonna just look at it and be like, "Fuck you! I read the book." But yeah, and like I don't know, like Kanye West, like is clearly a guy who has like mental illness. Like he kind of displays like actually, I'm not gonna like try to like he clearly has his
all right.
His problems.
Here's the truth. He's not well.
He's not well.
But he's also not a good person.
Yes.
He is both sick and a piece of shit. So you can't use his mental illness to like abscond.
This is the thing. Is Kanye has a very turbulent life. And all of his bullshit, this thing that he's doing now is like what keeps him like is like he's the like this is
he loves being a messy bitch. Like
yeah, this is his flailing to try to like I can understand why someone would do this, as you've seen with like also like fucking like goddamn like incels and people who get like fucking radicalized by like they watch like a fucking like video from some like idiot and then they're like, oh, I believe now I believe that like there's a master race and like all this shit, like, you know.
But it is still funny to, you know, see a guy just show up on a show wearing basically what looks like, you know, pantyhose on your face.
That was a fine mask. It was fine. It wasn't pantyhose looking, dude. There's a zipper in the front. What pantyhose have a zipper on them?
I don't know.
What women you dating that have fucking zipper up pantyhose? Anyways,
I didn't see the zipper. But speaking of Alex Jones, he filed for personal bankruptcy this week because he's now on the hook for $1.5 billion worth of damages due to the Sandy Hook court cases.
Yeah, didn't they? So it was like $900 million or whatever. Didn't they add like an additional like $100 million on top of that or whatever?
No, it was like an additional like 600.
Oh shit! Okay.
So he's personally on the hook now for over $1.5 billion.
So why he interviewed Kanye makes total sense now. Dude, that makes total sense why he was like pushing back on Kanye. Like, I can't have this again, you motherfucker.
Yeah,
I can't have this. I already have no money left.
I'm sure he is scared. Like, he was awkward laughing.
Yeah. God, I should have fucking clipped that thing.
Like, his net worth is only like $270 million at
White
most.
people are the devil.
And
I'll clip it in post. God damn it.
So like,
I hate
even if like
you don't have
like
to.
all of his assets he throws
thank
into this
you.
shit, he's still like negative $1.3 billion.
Also, to be clear, like, I don't actually think that Kanye West is gonna like make out like a bandit from acting like a Nazi, but but I could see how he thinks that, you know.
I mean, he's already lost a lot of his like sponsorships. So I don't know. I mean, as like, you know, I had a period where I was quite a big Kanye West fan. I'll be honest, and oh boy, I got out like around after The Life of Pablo came out. I was like, okay, I'm good. No more of this.
I think it was Chapo, but somebody made like the correct comment in that acting like you're smart because you never liked his music and using that as like analogous to being smart because you could somehow tell he was a Nazi
Yeah.
like ahead of time. Like that's just a lie. That doesn't make you smart.
I mean, there's the Bill Barr joke where it's like, if you take what Kanye is saying about like his ego and how great he is and you put it in a white guy, it's like he's gonna start talking like he's Hitler. And then like Garfunkel and Oates did like a thing, stand-up routine that was like they read different quotes and they asked if it was Kanye or Hitler who said the quotes. So and that was like over like that routine is like over 15 years old. So I mean, hey. People kind of called it, but no, like at the same time, no, you're all right. Like just because you did call it, or just because you like thought something was in the water, like you can't gloat over other people.
You're not like smart and psychic. You just didn't like his music before,
yeah.
And now you don't like his politics, which is like
one of the greatest producers ever. Come on, guys, get out of here.
I was just kind of oblivious to him, but I don't feel the need to gloat about that because that's just kind of my like resting pulse, anyways.
Yeah, you feel oblivious to most things, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Like most culture. Like, do you even like music?
I do. But like I'm generally oblivious to like, you know, pop culture. So that's just another thing that I didn't really notice or was aware of. So like, I don't know, just a normal Tuesday for me.
Generally oblivious except for Star Wars.
That's accurate.
Somewhat.
Yes.
Mostly-ish.
Generally oblivious to pop culture except for Star Wars. Did you not like Obi-Wan? Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah, it was
Go to the dark side. It's a bad show. Like the last episode with the Obi-Wan and the Darth Vader duel, which like even though you know this is gonna end with none of them like actually like nobody's gonna die, like you know Obi-Wan's gonna walk away. That still had an emotional like that's still a good episode, but like the rest of the series it was
mid.
Not very good. It was not. It was worse than mid, motherfucker.
I'm trying to be generous here,
dude. I don't know the scene where like little Leia running around and like a tree.
Yeah, that
anyways.
was.
Yeah, garbage. Anyways, was there anything else, boys? And again, I apologize for my attitude earlier.
It's okay. I feel like I am struggling a lot to come up with like coherent train of thought.
I mean, that's how I am at work, but that's okay because I don't really have to do that much.
I don't know why. Joe, you ever read the book Dracula? I don't know why I feel like asking you that. It's good.
No, but
it's actually
I probably should.
Yeah, I liked it. I was surprised.
It's actually a good book. Yeah, it's a surprisingly good book.
I don't know why I was surprised. I mean, I guess because most of the horror from like the fucking 1800s, it's almost de facto bourgeois, but it's like that was like where the horror came from in the book. Was this sort of like
what?
Like that was where the power of Dracula was like more than what made him monstrous was not being a vampire. It was like his wealth, the way he could communicate with like other creatures.
Yeah.
He had like minions because he was like ethereal.
Yeah.
So basically, the fact that he was bourgeois was the more terrifying aspect.
Yeah, no.
Well, sort of.
Like because you're really onto something there.
The protagonist was like traveling through, and he kind of got like holed up in this fucking big place that like was kind of foreign to him. Dracula played on the fear of the foreigner in a lot of ways. Like that's the critique that many people have of it, is that it perpetuates stereotypes like the Transylvanian other, you know?
Yes.
But if you actually read it, like it's less that. There's kind of two storylines within the book.
Ew.
And like the actual Dracula's castle part of it is one of the storylines.
Wait, but if you characterize like the 1800s horror as like kind of bourgeois, what do you characterize Lovecraft as?
Oh, dude, he was very bourgeois.
Okay.
He cannot write a story in first person from the perspective of somebody who can't afford a slave.
You're not wrong.
All of his stories
Yeah,
are...
I'm shaking my head, yes.
The protagonist is always a guy who lives in a gigantic mansion and has indentured servants.
Yeah.
You are not wrong, but it is still funny.
And they're always descended from, like, a family of influence or wealth or whatever.
It's still very good.
Yeah.
Fucking incredible. It's just, like, that's really my only critique of Lovecraft, is that...
He's kind of like the...
Not the racism?
He's a better version of Stephen King.
I'm
in
kidding.
The sense that, like, he can't...
No, he's not!
No, I mean in the sense that he can't, like, write a story about someone who's, like, not wealthy.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It's like he's... Towards the end of his life, he actually did start to change, but that's not really reflected in his writing. All of his best stories are still written from the perspective of himself by some other name.
Yeah, but he was like, it's interesting, because he was like a struggling writer from Providence, so... Aspirational.
Well, kinda, I mean... Alright, I'll admit that I was too hard on Lovecraft here. He was born into wealth, but that wealth evaporated along with the mental and physical health of his family, and he didn't see much income from its work. He also did eventually marry a Russian Jew and become an avowed socialist before his death. Anyway, I'm gonna fast forward to the political shit. I was gonna bring up what I talked about in the working group meeting, that in Massachusetts there's a shortage of care for elderly people, children, people with disabilities. And this is like not easy work. It takes a lot of emotional labor on top of what, you know, people in the article were quoted as saying they have to put on a lot of different hats, in that they have to be basically a therapist on top of a maid. They have to clean up after people. They have to act as like maybe a liaison between the patient and their family. They have to act also as a nurse or a doctor. Like they have to perform all of these different roles because they're just looking after somebody's well-being. And yet the average salary earned by a care worker is less than that of a retail worker.
Barely above the state minimum.
I think that reflects in a lot of ways the demographics of the human services industry. As I went over before, as much as 80% of these care workers are women. The field is heavily propped up by people here on visas, and there is a large overrepresentation by Black and brown people. And these are all, if you've been a listener of this show, I'm sure you could infer that these are all incentives for employers to not have to pay people what they're fucking worth. And as a result, these workers are experiencing increasing levels of burnout. There is a greater need in the field than ever for fresh labor, and there's a self-perpetuating cycle of people getting burnt out and fleeing the field, and there's really no incentive for new people to join because they know that they're not going to be able to make living wages while doing very difficult work. And as of the evening of recording, the only thing that the state has done to respond is basically make this milquetoast fucking grant program called the Massachusetts Repay Program, where they will grant a maximum of 2,000 grants toward helping people pay off their fucking student loans, which does not address the demographic disparities, does not address the fact that children, elderly people, and people with disabilities still need care at a rate that they're not currently receiving, does not address the impact on the families of these people or the employees that still can't fucking survive. If what you're worried about fundamentally is surviving until your next paycheck, not even necessarily saving up, but if you have to leave the field because the amount of labor you're putting in is insufficient to hold you over consistently, there is something fucking wrong with the entire labor market. I mean, capitalism is what's wrong with it, but
that's the answer to most problems.
Right. I will say there was a thing called the Soviet Union.
You may have heard of it.
You may have heard of it. In the Soviet Union, you could become a care worker or a doctor, and you didn't have to deal with this bullshit because it was guaranteed by the fucking state that these needs would be covered for you. Your incentive was having your needs met. And in fact, if you had to work a post in some small town Siberia, you would get extra benefits. You would get extra incentives. And that is what equity is. That's when people talk about equality, that's not even what we're talking about. We're talking about equity here. And if you are a human being doing labor, you have worth. Your labor is worth something.
Oh, baby, yes.
Your clients are worth something.
Love to hear it.
Your employer might have other feelings about this, but, they're wrong. They can go fuck off and, they can fuck themselves into a wood chipper.
So anyway, I think this would be a good opportunity. I mean, I'm kind of tangentially in this field because the grant is aimed at people who work in substance use disorder treatment, specifically opioid, which is like, white people getting scared that their fucking kids for the first time are experiencing any kind of hardship.
So for the sake of argument, let's say for a second that this thing will actually, work. How many people do you think are actually in this industry? More than 2,000?
Oh, absolutely.
So this isn't even really milquetoast. This is doomed to fail before it even starts. We're doing a thing and want to make it look like we're at least half-assing it, but anybody who actually looks at this will know that we're not even doing that.
Yeah, according to the statistic that was linked from this WBUR investigation, they've been doing these little projects that I'm kind of proud of them. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't sound weird, but it's
they stuck to their little pet projects that are doomed to fail.
Yeah, they're not. Well, they're not. Some of them are actually really making some kind of an impact. No, that was I like that applause.
I feel like the project that succeed, that's more something that happens on accident rather than the actual intended effect.
No, I'll give credit where credit's due.
Joe has no faith.
Good journalism does happen sometimes. They've been investigating the police a lot. I like that. But the labor statistics that they linked show that over 5,000 people are exiting this field annually in Massachusetts.
Over 9,000.
And the worst part of this grant is that it would trap these employees in their current position for the next 4 to 5 years.
Oh, God.
Just like a fucking hostage situation. Get your shit together, Massachusetts. Charlie Baker, you do not pass go.
That's why I described it as basically Kamala Harris' student debt plan, but for the healthcare sector.
It's worse though, Joe. It's worse because they know that for the next 4 to 5 years they have no future.
Yeah, accurate.
I mean, we can love our clients. We can love our clients all we want, right? I mean, in theory, we're really not supposed to quote unquote take them home with us. But at the same time, if you are
we're gonna take them home with us.
If you are a home care aide, then their home is as much your home. I mean, if for the majority of your fucking waking hours you are taking care of somebody, you better hope that your home is their home, or vice versa. Whatever I'm trying to say. My words aren't coming out in the right order today, but goddamn, we're doing it live.
Yeah. What's funny is I completely forgot that we were going to mention the Twitter files.
The Twitter file.
Basically, I don't even care. Matt Taibbi leaked some files, some documents that said that Twitter removed Hunter Biden's dick pics off of the platform at the request of the Democrats, which really James Woods was the one who was posting the dick pic, which is the weirdest thing, and that's what I didn't mention earlier. Essentially, he was posting revenge porn, and
isn't that against Twitter's policy anyways?
Yes, exactly. It's just regular Twitter policy to take that off anyways. So there's no collusion here. There's no story here. And they're just trying to make a big deal out of it.
There was absolutely no collusion. Everybody knows it.
Because they're freaks. And I don't know, whatever Joe said earlier about the incels being weird. It's all they're...
Just 20 incels being further devolving into madness over nothing?
They want to look at Hunter Biden's dick, which used to do a Google search. Ladies.
Wait a second. I'm confused. Why do incels want to look at Hunter Biden's dick?
That's what I was confused about earlier.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just the...
I'm sorry. Again, I did kind of start veering off into not paying attention because I'm on Facebook doing spider identifications and somebody asked me if Steatota grassa has the white spots on its back. Does that mean it's male or female? That doesn't mean necessarily one way or the other, listeners. If you got a steatota and it's got spots on it, I mean, more often than not, it indicates that it's a juvenile.
Okay.
However,
Learning new things every day.
I have heartburn. Sucks.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, fuck you.
No,
Well, you have
I mean that
five
seriously.
Yeah,
That is unfortunate.
yeah. Drink some milk. My name is Scott. I gotta drink some milk.
Scott's just unrepentant. Joe's like, I sympathize with you. Scott's
Yeah,
like,
I'm
fuck
so,
off.
Yeah, I'm a monster. This is why I'm in therapy, folks. And I'm gonna have to talk about this tomorrow. Yeah, Sweaty Wife on the social medias. You can follow me. Follow me. Look at my Goodreads.
Look at the books I'm reading, folks.
That's what you want to do. Sweaty Wife, Joe, you go. You fucking asshole.
I am Joe, as has been established. I mean, I can be found on Twitter complaining about the Red Sox and their doomed off season, following their doomed season.
Wait,
Probably
they're playing
following
the
another
off-season?
Or
doomed
ball.
season.
Do you follow any of the other sports, Joe? Sports Joe.
A little bit. I mean, basketball bores me to sleep, so.
How?
It's basically just watching in a repetitive stress motion. It's basically the same repetitive motion back and forth.
Yeah, what is baseball, though?
Baseball has a lot more strategy to it.
Yeah, but baseball is just a guy throwing a ball, and sometimes another guy swings a bat at it. Like, what are you talking about?
There's more to it than that.
That's the base game of baseball, though. I get whatever. So do you not like hockey also?
Jesse.
No,
Wait, shut no. Do you, okay, but he likes hockey. All right, fine.
Baseball and hockey.
You don't like football?
I mean, it's
And he's
professional
Jesse.
athletes giving
All
each
right.
other brain injuries for other people's
And you can find
entertainment.
my music on soundcloud.com/contingents Boston, CONTINGENCE Boston. And I do have a slam recommendation this evening. I thought Drew was going to be here for it, and I think he would have laughed his ass off, so RIP. But your slam recommendation is an album entitled I'm going to try and get through this.
May Drew rest in peace.
Some necrophiles having sex with naked autopsied bodies in the morgue.
Some necrophiles having sex with naked autopsied bodies in the morgue?
Yes.
I said it exactly the same way you did. Jesus Christ.
That is the name of the album.
Oh, God.
And the artist is Hymenatomy. And they are from somewhere in Estonia that I cannot pronounce.
Somewhere in Estonia.
Somewhere in Estonia. How do you say the J?
Who knows?
I'm gonna look it up on Google Translate.
Some necrophiles having sex with naked autopsied bodies at the morgue.
That just rolls right off the tongue.
It does. Harju County. That's what Google Translate had for the
Oh,
county that
a medical
Hymenatomy.
procedure involving the surgical removal or opening of the hymen.
Mm-hmm.
Hymenotomy. Oh, okay.
Their compilation appearances include shitting the rotten entrails and wormed organs at public bathroom on foul stench of the infected.
God damn you, dude. Oh, God. Some of these titles are just...
That's too funny.
Stealing a young, sexy goat from an angry farmer in order to have sex with it while unexpected farmer dismembers your hand with a blunt machete.
It's very specific.
Orgasm achieved by disemboweling pregnant woman and inserting decapitated fetus into hairy anus. Oh god. Infected penis. Gigantic dildo constructed from putrid human body parts stolen from a local cemetery. Okay. Anyways. Those are very nice. Yeah, go to the Patreon at Epic Incredulity. Find us on Instagram.
Do the thing.
You know, or we're on Twitter or on Facebook and the fucking, what is it called? YouTube. Oh my god. Go find us there. Every week we say Batankto. And I feel like
Batankto.
Alright.
Drew missed out.
I'm happy you guys are not mad at me.
I'm not
Drew missed
mad.
out on a good time.
Did you get that seagull sound drop yet, or what?
A seagull? What?
Yes, get
Yes.
a seagull sound drop.
I'm not fucking getting a seagull. I have to put an effort into the sound drop of a goddamn seagull. I don't know where.
Holy fuck. There is actually a story in the Washington Post entitled Opinion: The CIA funded a culture war against communism. It should do so again.
Yes, it's a real headline.
In the Washington Post?
Yeah.
Are they the Democracy Dies in Darkness one?
Yes.